I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
In 1992, Francis Ford Coppola, coming off the to some disappointing Godfather Part 3,
just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
Reinvigorated his career with Bram Stoker's Dracula, a romantic, epic version of the original classic that took the material seriously, resulting in a lavish, gothic romance with a now iconic performance from Gary Oldman in the lead. Importantly to Coppola, the film was a box office bonanza, and the result were two more state-of-the-art spins on classic movie monsters from Sony Pictures. One of them was Mike Nichols' contemporary reimagining of The Wolfman, Wolf, starring a very hairy Jack Nicholson and Michelle Pfeiffer, while Coppola himself produced a quasi-sequel to Bram Stoker's Dracula, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, which was written, or rather adapted, by Frank Darabont and would be directed by Kenneth Branagh, who was then coming off of his Shakespearean adaptations of Henry V and Much Ado About Nothing. At the time, people were saying he was the heir apparent to Laurence Olivier. He had also directed a contemporary film noir classic called Dead Again that was a surprise hit for Paramount Pictures. He would also play Victor Frankenstein himself, while his creation would be played by none other than Robert De Niro. On that basis, Branagh assembled an enviable cast, which included Ian Holm, a nearly unrecognizable John Cleese, who's wearing a wig and a fake jaw to look less comical, Tom Hulce of Amadeus, Aidan Quinn, and finally Helena Bonham Carter as Frankenstein's love, who in this twisted reimagining actually becomes the bride of Frankenstein herself. The shoot was eventful, with Branagh embarking on a scandalous affair with Bonham Carter despite being married to Emma Thompson at the time. In a weird coincidence, Carter's eventual partner, Tim Burton, was once courted to direct this, with none other than Arnold Schwarzenegger playing Frankenstein's monster. When the lavish film was delivered to Coppola, he hated the finished product, complaining that Branagh went way over the top and demanding that the film be re-edited, which Branagh refused to do, leading Coppola to distance himself from the film. The critics were not kind, with many complaining that it was too operatic, so operatic in fact that it was comical.
I will have revenge. Frankenstein!
Although most praised De Niro's nuanced performance as the creature, as well as the makeup and set design, which couldn't be denied. It sputtered out at the box office, only grossing $22 million on a $45 million budget, although the international receipts were a lot better, with it eventually breaking $100 million, meaning it likely eked out a small profit for all involved. It's a movie, though, that few dare bring up with Branagh nowadays, while Darabont, notorious for always speaking his mind, called it the best script he'd ever written and the worst film he'd ever seen. The truth, however, lies somewhere in the middle. The thing is, all the criticisms of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein are correct. The film is wildly over the top, something that becomes painfully obvious when watched through a modern lens. Now, there's nothing wrong with being operatic, but when Francis Ford Coppola, whose entire climax of Godfather Part 3 is juxtaposed with an opera, says it's too operatic, well, you've got yourself a problem. It does indeed feel like Branagh was in over his head, being a lot more at ease filming Shakespeare at the time, or the deliberately old-fashioned Dead Again. In a movie like that, you could afford to be stylish. Branagh could now probably do it justice. One also must address the fact that his ego is stamped all over the film, with him constantly baring his abs and covering himself with goo throughout the film in a way that one can't help but remark that he's clearly enamored with his star, himself. Yet, there's some brilliance on display here. Him and Bonham Carter have great chemistry, even if the fact that they're playing adopted siblings turned lovers is kinda creepy, with them even saying brother and sister no more before their big love scene.
Brother and sister, no more.
Now husband and wife.
Carter is sympathetic and lovely, and De Niro really does deliver a great performance as the creature, building a real sense of empathy driven home by the remarkable makeup effects that have never really been equaled as far as screen versions of the legend go. Patrick Doyle also contributes one of his best scores, and it's no wonder that he's become a mainstay of Branagh's, with him being one of the most underrated composers of our generation. The cinematography is also beautiful, as is the gothic production design, although the framing narrative of Aidan Quinn's Captain Walton finding Victor in the Arctic Circle adds very little to the film. Quinn also feels too contemporary and American for the role. However, his fellow American, Tom Hulce, blends in perfectly as Frankenstein's loyal friend, and he also seems firmly aware of the camp nature of the film, playing it up with some hammy reactions that I think actually kinda add to the film in some ways.
Yes,
How do you do?
He may have actually made for a better, if less sexy, Victor. John Cleese is also cast against type in a serious role, although his prosthetic jaw and teeth are very distracting. Horror fans will enjoy some of the gorier moments, while it should also please fans of Bram Stoker's Dracula for its focus on gothic romance, although again, the incest thing is, you know. Overall, I've always had a soft spot for this entertaining take on Mary Shelley's tale, and while it's imperfect, it's still one of the better versions of the story that we've gotten, so far anyway. If you want to see it, it's pretty easy to find on streaming, so check it out.